Carl Dennis, I've known for many, many years too, as a longtime faculty member at the University of Buffalo and the Warren Wilson College program. He's published many, many books. There's a new one selected out there now. In 2002, he won the Pulitzer Prize for Practical Gods. Carl writes of his poems can fool you sometimes at first. He writes of the daily, the quotidian, the everyday, but always beneath it there's some kind of strange, sly humor and an eye on the world that helps us understand both how beautiful and vexing we are as humans and how beautiful and vexing the world can be.
It's very good to be reading with Kate Johnson and Stephen Dobbins. I'm going to be reading from a manuscript called Extra Room, and one of the meanings of the title is making space for unofficial categories, to widen a circle of thought. The first one is called Many Mansions. In a free country, the church of your choice may bear a name not on the list of official churches, a name you bestow yourself after trial and error. A church that includes not only those with the courage of their convictions, but those with the courage to be unconvinced, disappointed, and lonely. A church that's quick when it finds you despondent, to suggest your soul is a great bold beach with a towering canopy, offering ample shade on a sunny day and a dry retreat on a rainy. A church that's quick when it finds you smug, to pronounce you a crooked stick not even a long soak in a pool of grace can straighten. Now the key word of your church is yesterday, as in the sentence, yesterday I swore an oath I'm trying to keep today, despite what seems a sudden collapse of trust. Now its key word is tomorrow, as in, today I'd like more than anything to be elsewhere, but tomorrow, given some luck, I want to stay. This is to the faculty of reason, and reason doesn't need any defenders, but in poetry it's not something that people tend to address, since it can be used to bad ends. And since the Romantics, it's sometimes in the doghouse. But when election time goes around and you start reading what people are saying, you really realize how rare and beautiful reason can be. To reason. You don't deserve to be blamed for the wrongs done in your name, any more than God or country ought to be blamed, or peace or freedom. You deserve to be praised for bringing to all who serve you sincerely a truth beyond the senses. For you, it's obvious that the hungry of Madagascar are just as needy as the hungry at home. And when the issues are local, you're the one determined to give all sides a hearing. It's you at the public meeting about the wisdom of damming the river who are open both to the call of cities downriver for flood protection and to the protest of villages that may soon be turned into lake bed. And as you deliberate, you don't assume that the needs of the many trump the rights of the few, that justice is simply a matter of numbers. You don't assume the village plan for the dispossessed on higher ground is superior to the old because it's brick, not clapboard, with wider streets, new and old, grand and modest. These are the same before your law. If Paris is on your list of places worth visiting, so is the small provincial town of Arles, home of a Roman theater that's still standing. For you, an ancient play is just as likely as one written this morning to be relevant, though its message may need more deciphering. You may not be sure what's implied when the hero, in serving one god, runs afoul of another, just as imposing. You may not be sure what it meant to its earliest audience, but you resist assuming the question can't be answered. Let's see, you say, if under different names two truths we honor are in contention, and only one can be lived today. Of course, sometimes reason is unable to win out. And it has to acknowledge defeat. This is a poem called Noah. I could use him as a symbol of willful ignorance, the neighbor I share a fence with, who still believes, despite all my arguments, that the weakest government is the best taxes, no taxes at all. Or I could say he'd have made a good trapper or hunter in a territory beyond the frontier 200 years ago or more. It's not his fault, he was born too late. No way to tell how close my convictions would be to his if I'd had his parents. Such fruit, the latest studies suggest, seldom falls far from the family tree. And then I ought to admit he's a dutiful family man, out late at a doubleheader with his two sons, up early to pick a bouquet from the garden, to brighten the kitchen for his wife, an invalid. Yes, I hate coming home on autumn evenings to find his lawn bristling with election signs, each naming a candidate certain all will be well when market forces can operate unconstrained. Better for me to know the light in his mother's room that's been dark for weeks, suggesting he's brought her back from the nursing home so she can enjoy her final days in the hard-won safety of the family ark. It's hard to say what he plans to do with the arkless when the rains begin and the flooded residents call for help from their attic windows. I can hear him shout from the deck they'd be dry if they practiced like him a little prudence. But then, does he let them drown or drag them aboard with a warning that next time he'll ignore them? Next time I may wish that a lightning bolt chars his mass and splinters his hull, so he and his kin, crowding a lifeboat in a churning sea, learn the hard way the limits of his go-it-alone philosophy. But this time, a close scraping fog with a floating wreck is all I ask. Let it leave him feeling shaken, spared for no reason that he can think of. Now to scan the horizon for a hilltop poking above the flood. Fine with him if other survivors have already found it, others willing to take him in. So after a poem like that where I have all the answers, this is a poem which is I come across a world that makes me feel humble. In the kingdom, once in a great while I come upon them, inhabitants of the kingdom of the leisurely, like the two I happened upon last week at the museum, standing in front of a painting by Van Gogh. A woman in her early 30s and a boy about 12, dressed in local garments and speaking softly with local inflections, who revealed no sign of the kingdom that they were from until I made a circuit of the big room in 20 minutes and met them again, just where I left them. There they stood, in front of the drinkers, a painting of 3 men standing at a table set out in a field, each tilting back a glass of wine while a child off to the side, barely as tall as the table, drank from a glass of milk he held with both hands. Unnoticed, I stood behind them and listened as the woman gently posed questions as if half to herself, and the boy, son or nephew or young disciple, I couldn't say, answered eagerly as best he could. Do the men look the same age or different? Would you say they're 3 men or 1 man at different times of his life? And is the child, do you think, his son or the boy that the man once was decades before? And I seemed to know where her questions were heading. Soon she would ask if anyone in the painting looked as if his thirst was being satisfied, and if not, can we guess the cause? And then the question would come, what do we really thirst for? And how should we look for it? And where? All I needed to do, it seemed, was wait, and she, though half my age, would lead me along the path that ended in revelation, assuming the concept of path was appropriate for the kingdom of the leisurely. Maybe this conversation for them wasn't a wayside marker, but an instance of what they sought. Maybe while they were talking, they were strolling down to the beach to gather seaweed, or already returning to make a broth I was welcome to share. Too bad I had an appointment in half an hour in the kingdom of the busy and couldn't stay. This is another poem about discipleship, a little more close to my everyday life. Laundry day. All one needs to belong to the company of the truly grateful is to feel grateful, just as I felt when, retrieving a sock this afternoon from behind the dryer, I found the book you lent me 4 years ago, 2 years before your heirs sold off your library. Did you ever wonder what had become of it? You who lent books to so many friends in need of being wakened or heartened that you couldn't remember where each one went. 4 years, and its pages are still legible, though dark with mildew. A book on what has to be done at once to save the biosphere from calamity. How best to persuade our species it's time to swallow some bitter medicine. 4 years on the floor behind a dryer, and with every year it's become more true. For your sake, if not the planet's, I ought to do more than vow to search for a cleaner copy and put it back into circulation. I ought at least to write a rebuttal to the article in last night's paper on the need of our species to adjust to its new environment as the fittest and shrewdest have always done. So what if my letter makes no difference? Let it serve as evidence that I'm not ungrateful for the years you gave to a cause more urgent than any of mine. For your sake, I'll try to write it this evening, your gift open beside me to help me resist the congenial voice of moderation. the fatal charm of compromise. This poem too is about the private and the public. It's called Unfolding. If there is no spirit unfolding itself in history, no gradual growth of consciousness beneath the land grabs and forced migrations, the bought elections, the betrayal of trust by party faction in the name of progress, what about spirit in the personal realm, unfolding slowly inside us, so slowly that our best days seem like a holding action? Seasons repeat themselves, but the tree shading the yard keeps growing. Don't be chagrined at the sadness you felt this evening beside the bed of a friend whose strength is ebbing. Wasn't more profound than the sadness of yesterday, that you still can't imagine a fraction of what he's feeling as the world he loves slips from his grasp. No progress from your perspective, but who's to say what you might notice if the scroll of the last few months were unrolled on the table before you? How clear it might be that your understanding of all your losing and losing him has been slowly deepening. Another day, you say to yourself at dusk, as you climb your porch steps, which you notice could use some scraping and painting this weekend. A fresh coat that, with luck, will last a year. So I'm going to read two more. I began by reading a poem that made extra room for a certain kind of private religion, and this tries to make extra room in the realm of philosophy. Introduction to Philosophy. Near the end of the course, in that part of the hour reserved for questions, a silence fell on the class when the girl who'd been quiet all semester raised her hand to ask if anyone there besides her believed in heaven. An embarrassed silence, while each of us wondered why she hadn't chosen to go to the Bible college just a mile away. Or if not heaven, she added after a moment, did any of us believe the unlucky were granted a second life on earth under stars more friendly? If not, what did we tell ourselves when facing the fact of unequal portions? How do we deal with the students in the flat above who died in the fire that somehow missed us? With the family crushed by the truck that failed to stop at the corner we passed a moment before? Did we take much solace, she wanted to know, in their survival as ghosts in the crowded closet of memory? Wouldn't more justice be done if they were allowed to live again on their own? All those whose stories flash by on the news, inhabitants of a town flattened by a tsunami, buried in a mudslide, torched by a warlord, eager to prove that the ruthless can always defeat the peaceable. What truth did we have, she wondered, that she would be able to lean on if her faith, steady so far, ever faltered? Then she stopped, ready to hear our answers, and we entered a silence that had no trouble stretching to fill the hour, or lingering as we pulled our coats on and stepped out into the luck of day. So this last one is called Missing, and it tries to make extra room for the dead. If I told you simply that the bed in the Baptist hospital last occupied by Cora Stokes is empty again, and the patient didn't go home, you'd be likely not to feel much interest. So I'm adding here the news that she's gone missing, that any tip on her whereabouts will be highly prized. Cora Stokes, female, African American, 47, 5 feet, 5 inches, slender, with a mole on her chin and a small scar over her right eyebrow. Last seen the day before yesterday in the cardiac wing by a night nurse who didn't like the looks of her chart. Till a week ago, a teacher of botany at Jefferson Junior High in Chesterfield. On Wednesday nights, a player of bridge with 3 women she's known since grade school. Left-handed, slaps her head with her left hand when she makes a mistake in bidding made by beginners. Owner of a bungalow on Cherry Street, 3 bedrooms, one occupied by her mother, Bessie, 76, crippled by arthritis, one by her daughter, Trish, 11, a 5th grader at Holy Angels, no Baptist school nearby being available. Single mother, observed by neighbors on weekends working with daughter in vegetable garden while mother looks on from a canvas chair. Observed on Sundays driving the pair to Second Baptist on Randolph Street. Believes that her God sees everything, not sure what he does with the information. An abstainer from alcohol for 11 years except for the break after the operation when a lump in her right breast was removed. Moviegoer with a preference for heavy domestic drama. 3 handkerchief features that serve to keep her heart soft and flexible. Worried she has no room in her heart for 2 backbiting colleagues, 2 teachers she'd assign some serious time in purgatory if she were Catholic. Readers of the personal columns in the Star, confident she'll be happier when she swears off men and doesn't relent as she did the last time. Lover of swing band music, owner of a canary, she gives the run of the house an hour at dusk, the time of day that for her seems least confining, most open to possibility, to change. If your life seems closed to the possibility of lasting significance, I guarantee it will change if any information you offer leads at last to her being found. Thank you.